Imagine a world where your sins don't just haunt your conscience, they breathe. They grow muscles. They grow horns. Imagine a labyrinth so dark, so suffocating, that the only thing louder than your heartbeat is the rhythmic scraping of massive hooves against cold, wet stone. This isn't just a campfire story. It's a divine execution. Born from a king's ultimate greed and a god's primal rage, the Minotaur wasn't just a monster. He was a royal disgrace hidden in plain sight. Today, we are tearing down the walls of the world's most famous maze to uncover a truth that history tried to bury. We aren't just looking at a beast, we're looking at a biological anomaly that brought an empire to its knees. Who was the real monster? The creature starving in the dark, or the king who put him there? Welcome to Preyo Tidings, where the legends of the past meet the grit of the modern world. Let's descend. I'm your host, and with over 30 years of experience unearthing the darkest chapters of human mythology, I can tell you one thing for certain. Monsters are rarely born. They are carefully manufactured. Today, we're going deep into the island of Crete to face the ultimate predator, the Minotaur. The story starts with a lie, a corporate-level breach of contract with the gods. King Minos of Crete was the ultimate power player. He wanted to prove to his brothers and his people that he had the divine right to rule. He didn't just want a crown, he wanted a mandate from the heavens. So he prayed to Poseidon, the god of the sea, for a sign. He asked for a miracle that would leave no room for doubt. Poseidon delivered. Out of the crashing white foam of the Mediterranean rose a creature of terrifying beauty, a massive snow-white bull. It was a masterpiece of nature. But there was a catch. The bull was a loan, not a gift. Minos was supposed to sacrifice it back to Poseidon immediately to show his gratitude. But greed is a slow-acting poison. Minos looked at that bull and saw an asset. He saw a breeder. He saw wealth. He swapped the god's bull for a common animal from his own herd, thinking he could trick the creator of the oceans. He thought he could outsmart a deity. But you don't cheat Poseidon. You don't insult the Earthshaker and expect to keep your house standing. Poseidon's revenge was twisted. He didn't send a flood, he sent a psychological plague. He cursed Minos' wife, Queen Pasiphae, with a madness that defied every law of nature. He gave her an obsession, a literal physical craving for the very bull Minos had refused to kill. The result was a biological tragedy. When the child was born, the midwives didn't find a prince, they found a nightmare. A creature with the soft, vulnerable limbs of a human infant, but the massive, muscular, and terrifying head of a bull. They named him Asterion, meaning the Starry One. It was a beautiful name for a child destined for eternal darkness. As he grew, the human side withered, and the bull's hunger took over. He didn't want milk, he wanted warm blood. Minos couldn't kill the child. It was a divine curse, and killing it might bring even more wrath. But he couldn't let his secret shame roam the palace. So he hired the greatest mind of the era, Daedalus. Think of Daedalus as the Elon Musk of the Bronze Age, an inventor, an architect, a man who saw the world in blueprints. Minos gave him a simple but impossible task. Build me a prison that is also a puzzle. Build me a place where no one who enters can ever leave, and no one who stays can ever be found. This was the birth of the Labyrinth. This wasn't just a garden maze, it was an architectural nightmare. Thousands of corridors, false floors, and optical illusions designed to break the human spirit. In the center sat the Minotaur. For the beast, the labyrinth was a hunting ground. For the victims, it was a death sentence. But a monster of this size needs a high-protein diet. At the same time, Crete was a superpower. Their navy, the Minoan thalassocracy, dominated the seas. After a brutal war with Athens, Minos imposed a blood tax.
Every 9 years, Athens had to send 7 of their finest young men and 7 maidens. These weren't soldiers, they were tributes. They were human currency, sent to satisfy the hunger of a royal secret. This tribute was the ultimate psychological weapon. It told the Athenians, we don't just own your land, we own your future. For years, the status quo remained. The Minotaur ate and the world trembled, until Theseus arrived. Theseus wasn't just a warrior, he was a disruptor. He was the prince of Athens, and he realized as long as the Minotaur lived, Athens would never be free. He didn't just volunteer to go, he turned a suicide mission into a covert op. When he arrived in Crete, he didn't rely solely on his muscles, he used his American-style charisma. He caught the eye of Ariadne, King Minos' own daughter. Ariadne was disillusioned with her father's cruelty. She saw in Theseus a chance to escape her own golden cage. She consulted Daedalus, who gave her the key, a simple ball of golden thread. As Theseus descended into the labyrinth, the thread was his only connection to reality. The air inside was thick with the scent of decay. Every step echoed. The silence was only broken by the heavy, wet breathing of a creature that hadn't seen the sun in years. The battle was a clash of 2 worlds. On one side, the civilized hero, strategic, armed, and focused. On the other, the Minotaur, raw, primordial, and fueled by decades of isolation and rage. It wasn't a clean fight. It was a grapple in the dirt, a struggle for air and life. But Theseus had a plan. He used the monster's own momentum against it. With a final, decisive blow, the Starry One fell. The myth was dead. The man remained.
If this deep dive into the labyrinth is hitting different, do us a huge favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to Preyo Tidings. We spend hundreds of hours researching these legends to bring you the highest quality historical content on YouTube. Comment below, if you were Ariadne, would you have betrayed your father to save a stranger? Let us know your thoughts. Now, back to the aftermath. The death of the Minotaur wasn't just the end of a beast, it was the beginning of the end for the Minoan Empire. Without their secret weapon, the aura of King Minos' divinity vanished. People realized that if a man could kill the god bull, then a man could defy the king. But as we look back, we have to ask, who was the real villain? Asterion, the Minotaur, was a victim of his parents' mistakes and the gods' petty games. He was imprisoned for the crime of being born. He was fed human flesh because his father provided no other option. In the USA, we often talk about the underdog story. Theseus is that hero. But in a modern lens, the Minotaur is a tragic figure, a symbol of the shadow self we all carry in a maze and forget about. The labyrinth is a metaphor for the complex systems, legal, social, and psychological, that we build to trap our own failures. The story of the Minotaur teaches us that no maze is truly inescapable if you have the right thread to follow. It teaches us that heroism isn't just about the kill, it's about the courage to enter the dark in the first place. Thank you for spending these 15 minutes in the labyrinth with us. Here at Preyo Tidings, we believe that the past isn't just a memory, it's a map for the future. Make sure to share this video with a fellow history buff and keep your eyes on the thread. I'm your host, and this has been the legend of the Minotaur. Stay curious, stay powerful, and we'll see you in the next one.